Killing. There came a few faraway cracks of rifles and someone fell from the top level. It took 3 seconds for every gang to be screaming orders. It was too loud to hear any of them. Only the guards were trained with hand signals, and it was getting too dark to see now. The screams weren't orders anymore. It had only been a few seconds, and people were dying. Hiding. Bleeding. Nothing made sense. Chase was frozen in place, hyperventilating. Someone ducked into his tiny slot between the dumpsters. She had the white shirt of a cultist. She shuddered. No, this was a mistake. This was a mistake. Why did I sneak in? Why couldn't I just stay back with the girls? She whimpered. She was being too noisy. I have to rescue them, she whispered, not seeing Chase. She crawled to the entrance, peeking out. I'm brave. So brave. She was ruining his hiding place. Get out, Chase said in a low tone. His voice was a bit too quiet. The girl froze, shoulders hunched. She glanced back, then out again. Chase leaned back onto his butt and kicked her hard in the back. She gasped and scrambled forward, making her distance quickly, looking back with terrified eyes. How? She said, staring. There's no one there. Then suddenly a guard jumped out from the right and punched her in the jaw. She dropped straight to the ground. Connor? Someone shouted. Ghost took his chance to sneak out into the alley before the attention came over to his crevice. Looking up along the brick wall, Chase could see the muzzle of an ally's rifle up there. At least Rocky was still covering them. A crashed car blocked the right exit down the alley, but the left led to a dark corner that he could probably sneak around. The gunshots had stopped. The only gangs with bullets to spare were the preppers and the guards, and they made sure that didn't change. Chase peeked out. The man Chase was pretty sure was Crippler of the Cult swung a piece of rebar around his head, punching a man with his left fist. Then he stabbed the rebar through the man's eye. He spun around, marching forward at anyone that dared him. Get out of the light, someone shouted, slapping his shoulder as they ran past him with a rifle half ready in their other arm. Crippler dashed forward into a shadowed area. Chase could just see his back as he kicked down over and over. People were using less ammo now. Maybe they'd run out of what they'd brought. Mark had backed into the shadow of a knocked-in wall and was being surrounded by 3 plaids. Chase took in the situation at a glance. A few of the workforce members had immediately been killed. Merc had probably tried to use them as hostages. Some of the cult newcomers had been shot down and the plaid members were standing over their bodies. Preppers were trying to stop them from plundering the area. The guards and the preppers usually backed each other up. That, plus the sounds of fist-fighting on the roof above him, made Chase's task clearer. Bloodshed was fine, but he had to make sure the guards came out on top, so Chase was going to keep his dad alive. He darted down the side of the building, picking his way over rubble hand and foot like a raccoon. 2 middle-aged plaids were wrestling Merc down. As a plaid kid raised a straight rod over Merc's head, Chase dashed behind him and yanked him back hard by the hair so that he fell back onto a concrete barricade. The sound his head made was like an apple when you crush it. Chase ducked behind the barricade and noticed a few preppers in their camo coming up to Merc's aid. Chase slipped back down the alley. He came face to face with a scared-looking older man in gray with a locked-back pistol hanging loosely in his right hand. Empty. Startled, Chase instinctively punched up into the man's throat, then ducked back around the corner, gasping in shock. His heart jumped into full fight mode, finally. He scrambled up the rubble to the upper level of the half-crumbled building. The floor was barely a ledge of broken 2x6s and rotted plywood, but it was enough for Chase's light weight. He heard someone shout from above. Then he saw one of the guards, Piccolo, go flying. He winced at the cry the man gave upon landing. "Chase, help!" he heard someone scream from the roof. Smiley. Chase sprang up to the roof where the guard snipers were supposed to be stationed. Smiley must have gone up to help. He slipped over the ledge onto the white tar. There were 36 shivers tugging off the equipment from his fallen companions. They were moaning. Blood ran down toward the shivers' feet. "Smiley?" he whispered. "Chase, help!" She said it like an order, then groaned. There she was. She was cut in 2 places, one from her mouth to her ear, laying her teeth bare, and one under the jaw. She had her own little puddle of blood pooling around her head and slipping down under her neck. He stared at her, blinking, heart pounding. He had crouched by the lip of the roof, but as he looked around, he realized he was probably pretty visible. "Isn't that Merc's boy?" someone said. "That's Merc's kid. Someone get him." Chase sprang up, snatching a knife from the ground from under Trey's twitching hand. He leapt across the roof, toward the street on the left, trying to plan. He couldn't jump down. Too high. He'd have to climb. Too slow. Get him! The shivers lunged toward him. They weren't grabbing guns. He dashed over to the sloping lip of the tar roof and leaned over to see if there were windows. His squad would be doing covert reinforcement too, so they weren't there to help. He looked over his shoulder. The shivers were too close. He spun around, knife loosely held. He had no idea what to do with it, so he threw it at the nearest shiver. It went wide left. The guy hesitated momentarily, stiffening. "Chase!" Someone from the ground called to him. "Chase! Jump!" Chase put his hands down on the sill, pushed off the tar, and threw himself down feet first. Then he looked. Braden caught him with a crouch as he landed, sparing both of them from some of the impact. "Gotta scram," Braden said, putting him down feet first. "All right, squad," Chase yelled, his voice high in the whistling wind. "Scram!" "Shut up," Braden pushed him ahead. "You'll show weakness, they'll get us." "I'm not risking my squad for his pride," Chase said, the words coming out barely louder than a mutter. "At least run," Braden pushed him again. Braden was staying back to protect him, Chase realized. Immediately he pushed off into a sprint. Braden followed. They slowed to a lope as they entered the Plaids' territory. They had to sneak here to avoid sentries. Braden hung back. Chase had scouted this territory before. There were ways around the Plaids' usual sentry placement if you were familiar with the area, especially if you were small, like Chase. That was why the others hung back and followed him at a distance, one or two at a time. When they arrived at the main camp, sullen-looking guards let them in quickly. Double sentries. This was going to be rough.